Here we go. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Hugh Hatrick Show with a very, very special guest. You don't often get world champions that is appearing on YouTube, but tonight, we have the GT World Champion. It is Mikail Hizal. Welcome, Mikail, to the show. It's great to have you back.
Yeah, hi Hugh, and hey guys. It's been a long time actually since I've been in your show recently. So I hope you've been doing well. And also, yeah, let's have another session here, or let's say part two of the
Yes.
interview session here.
Exactly. Well, we're streaming out onto YouTube. We're also, for the first time, streaming onto Twitter as well. So if anyone's watching on Twitter, they can see it live on there too. So that will be hopefully getting out to lots of people and lots of your followers. But it was, I think, over 2 years ago, you came on our Christmas special with your good friend Valerio. And we also had Susu as well. I think that was it was our Christmas special that we did a few years ago. I think it was just over 2 years ago, and it was great to have you because you all were talking amongst yourselves, asking questions as to how things were like, and so it was good fun. But you have been a star in GT7, and of course you've been in the movie, the Gran Turismo movie, haven't you? You were featured in all the kind of bits and pieces. And what's it been like over the last 2 years for you?
Before I'm going to answer that, for some reason I'm able to hear the audio from the stream, so it's like echoing in the end. So
Oh,
I
right.
can
Have you
hear
got
both you as well as the stream at the same time for some reason.
anything else running? Do you have Twitter running?
No, I
Or
don't have actually. Oh well, let me just check.
if you've got any other browser running other than Chrome?
Okay. Okay, now it should be fine. Okay, I deeply apologize. Can you repeat?
No, that's fine. No, it's no problem. No problem. Yeah. So, what's it been like for you the last couple of years? What has life been throwing up for you?
Yeah. So pretty much after winning the Manufacturers Cup in 2020, which was like the last achievement I really wanted to get in my Gran Turismo sim racing career. Obviously, we didn't really see or like predict Gran Turismo collaborating with the Olympics in order to host like an esports series in the end. But let's say from the official World Series championship format you have out there, like, which is like the Nations Cup, the Manufacturers Cup, and then from the Toyota Cup, you also have their own separate Toyota championship as well. So I really wanted to win all of these, and which I managed to do, thankfully. But during that time, I was also studying mechanical engineering with the focus laying on automotive engineering. And I really wanted to make sure that I can try to finish studies so that I can always say afterwards, hey, if if sim racing cannot work, you will always have like a plan B in the end, which is like your engineering stuff in the
Yeah,
end.
yeah.
And recently, I've also been to the UK to visit a race engineering course at Silverstone, which the MIA School of Race Engineering organizes in the end. It's a really, really good course, in my opinion, because the tutors out there, they are all, how should I say it, like putting, or not really putting, like working within the motorsport field. And
Yeah.
some of them are also engineers within the Formula One, such as from the
Oh,
Alpine Formula One team, from
yeah,
McLaren. So it
yeah,
was really insightful to hear everything from them because they could share all of the experiences with us. And it
yeah.
was really cool to learn lots of things from them. So this is something which I've been trying to broaden my knowledge in, like the field of race engineering, like in terms of motorsport. So I would like to maybe follow that for the future. But yeah, let's see how the future is going to look like.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, have you found that studying engineering has helped you with your, with how you drive, or maybe even how you set up cars for some of your racing games?
Mm-hmm. I would not really say that it really helped me in there, but let's say it helped me understanding how a car is working in the end. So, for example, if you let's just take Brands Hatch as an example. So, let's say after turn one, you have the little hairpin, and if you take the old course, this would have been like a fast left-hander downhill, right?
Yeah.
So, for example, if your car is having like an oversteering moment there, so normally you would increase the camber a bit on the rear in order to stabilize the car for the section. So with the engineering, how should I say, like theory here in the end, I was able to understand the reason why you have to do this in the end. Because normally when you play a game, you would play around with the settings, and in the end you would find out, okay, in order to have this kind of behavior, you need to change this. But some people, they didn't really know why they had to change this, right? But with the engineering knowledge here, you just dive more into the knowledge there, into the whole theory or like theoretical kind of things, so that you can also understand why you have to do this in the end. And for me personally, this is really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think that knowing the why is vital, isn't it? Because that rearranges how you think about how you go and race, as opposed to how you set up a car properly. If you're only doing it because you have an idea of the numbers, but you don't know how it all really works. It's like it's like working out the actual, what would it be called? Not the what's the, it's the formula, isn't it? You then know the formula of how things work. Once you know the exact details and why something has to be changed in order for a different result to occur. But no, it's fantastic. Now I'm going to be opening up some of the questions as well to those people who are watching, whether it be on Twitter or on YouTube. So if you have a question for Mikail, please put it in capital letters in the comments, so I can read it a bit easier, and also for Mikail too, so you can see what's coming, and then we'll ask that question for you. So in the last few years, I mean, you had a brilliant session in obviously 2019, 2020, winning these series. Have you found that you've been given some nice invites to take part in any other kind of championships or kind of special events that things like Gran Turismo or other games might have offered you?
Let's say after winning the Manufacturers Cup or like even the Nations Cup in 2019 and in 2020, I didn't really get any invitations to participate in any of the other competitions, except for one. After winning the Nations Cup in 2019, I got an invitation to do the E-Rock event, like the Race of Champions, but the esports event.
All right.
So supposedly I should have done that, like the qualifying procedure in the end, in order to qualify yourself for the live event in Mexico back then. But there were two reasons why I had to decline this. So the first reason was the event, which was held in Mexico, I think around January next year, or like on that year.
Yeah.
I wasn't able to do that because I was having my examinations during that time. So I couldn't really postpone that. And the second reason was I didn't have a gaming PC yet. So I wasn't able to play it in the end. So this is the reason why I had to decline it and like in that time. But after that, not really. Like, I think everybody knows that I've been a bit inactive on the World Series recently, like with the competitive scene. But nevertheless, I was able to attend the live events there.
Yes.
Which is like really, like I really feel grateful for that, because normally you need to qualify yourself from by doing the online championship in order to attend the live event there. But yeah, I was still able to attend those kind of events. So I'm really grateful for that.
That was quite good. So some doors were opened and you're able to turn up, because the live event looked fantastic, actually. It was really nice to see it in front of a big audience. And I think it was one of the best years they'd had in terms of everyone being able to see it, because it was really advertised on YouTube and on the game itself as well. And I think a lot of people tuned in to watch it. So it was a big success. And was it quite nice to be able to go back to something like that in a bit more of a kind of relaxed fashion, because you didn't have to go through all the qualifying and you could just kind of turn up and race? Did that kind of help you a little bit? Was it a bit more, not quite the same pressure?
Yeah, for sure it was. I mean, like at the beginning, I was like feeling relaxed, that I was just sitting back and watching the races in front of me, because normally as a competitor back then, you would feel, let's say, a little bit of pressure, because you need to perform as well as with your ambition of winning the whole event. So like becoming the world champion, for example, or just winning the showdown event. But yeah, like in my case, I was just sitting back and watching the races, so it was like really nice because there I was like, yeah, you guys could just go ahead and cause all the big drama. I would just sit back and enjoy the drama. But
That's nice, actually, isn't it?
yeah, it
And
is. But on the same
because
time,
you're
I'm like, yeah, I wish I could compete again because I really miss this feeling of competing against the very best drivers of Gran Turismo. But
yeah.
if I had to prefer one thing, currently I feel like it would be just sitting back a bit because I
Yeah.
feel like this would also help my nerves.
It must be nerve-wracking. I mean, I was reading earlier before we started a description of your 2019 victory, and I hadn't realised how close it was in terms of qualifying. And just to give you and to give the people watching an idea, the qualifying, you were on pole position. And you took pole position by 0.07 seconds from the Frenchman Baptiste Beauvois. And Takuma Miozano was just 0.025 further back, which is nothing. I mean, it is literally, and it was such a close race all the way through. Do you still have kind of good memories of these races and the kind of the how do you cope with the kind of pressure of dealing with such an environment like that in such a close race?
Yeah, I still can remember that day really well because when I woke up, actually, I wasn't really feeling that well. Not really that I was sick, but
Yeah,
more that because of the whole amount of pressure, I was just feeling unwell
yeah, the
because
nerves, isn't it? Yeah,
it was
yeah.
reaching to a point where I wasn't almost able to cope with the pressure.
Mhm.
Because in my mind, I was thinking, okay, today is the day you have the chance to become the world champion. Because during that time, I didn't know whether I would be able to compete in 2020 due to my studies.
Yeah,
So let's say, um, how should I say it? Like during that time, I was thinking that 2019 might have been my last year. So that's why I
yeah,
wanted to give it my best before I will, let's say, exit the competition where like with full of regrets
mhm,
because
mhm.
of me thinking, hey, you should have done this better, you could have performed better in this way, right?
Yeah,
But like in my case, like I'm a Muslim, so I like to pray a lot. So
mhm.
like with praying, it also helped to calm my body and my whole body and soul down, which helped me a
Mhm,
lot. And
mhm.
after entering the stage, I was just in my own zone, if I can
Yeah,
say that. Like
yeah, 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 yeah.
the qualifying session was probably the only session where it was really tense.
Mhm.
But once we did the first couple of races, I was just in my own zone or like in my own world,
Yeah,
just ignoring everything right next to me or like surrounded by me.
yeah,
But yeah, yeah, I was obviously quite happy how that day went or like turned out in the end. But in the end, I feel like I was still quite lucky that I managed to be not really winning the world championship in that year, but that
mm,
how everything turned out to be the case, I feel like that
yeah,
was a bit lucky in the end because on the first race, as you said, Baptiste Beauvois, he qualified on P2, but I think he got a penalty on the very first lap.
that's right. Yeah, yeah,
So he dropped himself a bit backwards. Then with how the slipstream was in that race, literally you had to have slipstream in order to get faster lap times in the end. So
hmm,
pretty much that driver who didn't have slipstream would be in a huge disadvantage
yeah,
unless you would drive perfect laps every single time. So during
yeah.
that time, I felt like Michael Schumacher in which race was it? Barcelona, I feel like, or
Oh
where he
yes,
had
when
to
he had to
do
set the thing. Oh, it was at
yes,
the Nürburgring when he set lap record after lap record when he was
yeah,
chasing
yeah, it was
Alesi,
this race.
John Alesi. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes, or like Lewis Hamilton in Hungary 2019, I
That's
feel
right. When he
like.
was going after, when he was going after
Verstappen.
Verstappen. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, that was a
So with that race, I had to set a perfect lap after perfect lap without making any mistakes because the slipstream was so strong in that race without having a lot of dirty air.
yeah,
Because the reason why I really wanted to win that race was to start on pole for the second race because the dirty
mm,
air was quite awful
yeah,
for the
yeah,
Super Formula race. So it was pretty much impossible to overtake. So after winning the first race, I was able to start from pole on the second one. And because of the dirty air, I was able to drive away and dictate my own pace.
Yeah.
As for the third race, that's why I was feeling a bit worried as well, because with the Le Mans, with the chicane, it should have been a roller coaster of the race on paper, but again, Baptiste Beauvoir and Mia Sonosan were having a collision there, so I was able to drive away or like pull away because of that, and also break the slipstream.
Yeah.
And this shouldn't have happened, like realistically. Because of that, I feel like I was quite lucky how everything turned out to be on that day. But obviously, you have to take that as an opportunity,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And in some ways, I think you make your own luck in terms of, you know, when that situation comes about, you have to capitalize on it, isn't it? You have to take it, as you say, and make it happen. So it's, but no, I mean, it must have been an incredible experience. And obviously, you're racing in front of all these people, or the other drivers, but the whole thing. And did you ever find that people were quite distracting round and about because maybe they always wanted to say hello or have a message for you and things out with the, you know, in between the races? Or how did you manage to kind of, you know, put the shields up, or in terms of, you know, not get distracted by the things around you?
I think this comes automatically or like in natural, because once you focus yourself on your own driving, you would just ignore everything else automatically. Like for me personally, at least. But obviously on the live stage, it's a bit different because you're sitting like on a different simulator. It's like a bit unique setup, to say the least. The TVs are quite big. Then obviously you have all the lights on the stage, and then there are also like few cameramen out there walking around to also capture your emotions with the camera. And some of them, they also have like a pretty big camera as well. So they're just taking it right in front of your face. But nevertheless, I'm still trying to think that you should still try to focus on your own driving. And what I always try to think, or like have the mentality in the end, is like just trying to think that I'm just doing a practice race in the end. Because by that, I try to calm myself a bit more down so that I can also ease off the pressure a little bit. And this also helped me a bit while competing against all the other drivers live, or like on the live stage there. So yeah.
No, that's the thing. I mean, it must be quite dazzling as well, because as you see, lots of lights, and that can be quite difficult in itself if you're sitting there in a studio, or I mean, I know it's a big studio, but then all these bright lights can kind of distract, or maybe, you know, you want to make sure you can see the screen properly, so everything is fine, so you're not getting any glare or any reflections, and isn't it? You want to make sure that all of that is working. So yeah, no, it's. I mean, we've got one of our guys in the chat there saying he gets nervous playing the dailies, but that's about as nerve-wracking as you get if you've got a race A, which is usually crazy, even when they take away the DR and the SR rating. So then people just go crazy. But in terms of, because a lot of our people watching, they might be kind of, some of them will be quite new to the game as well. And I know there's one or two of my good friends who have just recently started on GT7, and they may have played a little bit of Gran Turismo in the past. But they're thinking, how on earth do you get faster? Because maybe they're about 4 or 5 seconds off the pace, you know, maybe even 7 or 8 seconds off the really fast people. And they're sitting there, they've not really played racing games before. They've maybe driven a real car before. And they're thinking, how do I get faster? How do I start to improve my technique to get my times down? What would be the kind of, say, 3 things that you think would really help them?
Before I will go into that, I would like to share my past experience of how I even entered the sim racing scene in the end, because maybe they could also help motivate the other drivers out there. So in my case, I actually accidentally entered into the sim racing world. Like, it was never my intention to become a professional sim racing driver, because probably like everyone else, we were just playing Gran Turismo for fun with a controller in the past, collecting all of these cars, doing the whole license test, mission tests, going through the campaign mode in order to get the 100% on your on your stats, right? So when we had a Christmas event going on Gran Turismo 6, this was, I believe, 1 year after the the game has been released. So
Yeah.
should have been like towards the end of 2014, I believe. And there for the Christmas event, one of those Christmas events was an overtaking challenge with the Pagani Huayra at Bathurst. So he had to try to overtake some of the other AIs on the track
Yeah.
while also trying to set the fastest sector time on the same time.
Wow.
So I think you started on the uphill section. You had to finish, like you pretty much had to finish the lap. So like by crossing the start finish line. So during that time, I was still using a controller, but for some reason, I realized that I was quite good at this event, like compared to the other guys from the leaderboard, while using a controller still.
Yeah.
So because of that, I just wanted to try and see how I would fare against the other guys till the end of that event. Because previously, I was only doing it to get gold, to get the rewards, and just move on to the next challenge or like doing something else, right?
Yeah.
So when seeing that, I was like, okay, you don't really have lots of these kind of opportunities. So try to see how far you can get till the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
So at the end of the event, I managed to get a 5th place globally, and also setting the best controller lap time, I believe, during that time.
Wow.
And the person who actually got the world record there was Daniel Holland, who was still part of Team Redline during that time. And obviously, even I knew what Team Redline was, because whenever I was checking the leaderboards, like the top 10 leaderboards, I was only seeing TRL, 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 and then another game, the game attack, and then TRL, TRL, like those kind of drivers, right? So out of curiosity, I was just sending him a message after the event saying that, hey, I managed to finish P5 globally there. Is there like a possibility for me to join your team? So on the same day, I received a message from Daniel saying that, hey, he needs to talk with the other managers about it, but he will get back to me soon. So with that message, I was thinking, yeah, it won't happen anyway. But hey, at least we were just asking, right? So 2 days after that, I received a message from Daniel saying, yeah, you can join our team. So
Wow.
firstly, I was like, oh, that's great. So something I never expected, right? But then afterwards, I realized, oh, that means I need to start driving competitively. I need to start buying a racing wheel. I need to set up a simulator and start doing this competitively, right?
Yeah.
So, like, obviously, I was just asking for fun, but it wasn't really my intention, like to really, really join the team. So that's how I accidentally started, the whole sim racing thing in the end. Because at the beginning, I wasn't fast as well. It was only because of that event, for some reason, that I was quite good at it. And after that, I had to force driving competitively or like driving better in the end. So obviously, at the beginning, I was also quite off the pace. Maybe you can say like around 1 up to 2 seconds off the pace. But then here comes the answer to your question: how you can become a better driver. I can only say that from my experience in the end. Like the way how I managed to become a better driver in the end. So obviously there are like few factors you need to take into consideration. So unfortunately, I'm not really able to tell 3 points, but I need to share more.
However many you would like. Yeah, that's
Okay.
fine.
So the first thing is that you need to have the motivation to do it in you, because if you don't have the motivation, then you will just try to force yourself to become a better driver. And if that's the case, then maybe you will reach a point where you're just going to burn out your body or like your whole mindset or your soul in the end, which is not great. Secondly, you also need to be patient. So obviously everyone has like their own goals they set at the beginning of a journey, right? So for example, when we have a new year, everybody's like, yeah, we have a new year. I want to become a better person. I want to get rid of some weight. I want to achieve this and so on. So at the beginning, they're doing this, but after, let's say, some couple of weeks or months, they're dropping it because they lost the motivation or like they just became impatient in the end. But with the sim racing thing, obviously, you will not be able to achieve your goals right away. So you need to be patient, try to analyze it, which is my third point. Analyze your driving in the end, or like compare your driving with the other fast drivers. And there you can always do that while analyzing the lap times from the other top drivers from the leaderboard. So
Yeah.
you can either go to the sports mode of the daily races or from the World Series, or even go to the time attack mode, because there you are able to watch the replays from the top 10 drivers.
Yeah.
And there you can also try to see what exactly they're doing differently compared to you. Let it be such as the driving line into turn one, or like the gearing, like at which point you need to shift up, how you need to shift down because of the engine brake. Then there's also the weight distribution. So for example, do you need to force your car into a corner or smoothly turn into the corner? Like these are really important factors which come like to some drivers naturally. But if you can also try to analyze it, you can also try to understand why in the end you have to do this, right? So yeah, these are like few of the tricks you need to do, and you can only see it about analyzing in the end. Because even for myself, for example, I try to drive for like maybe 30 minutes in the end, thinking, okay, this must be the best driving line, for example, or like the best shifting. But in the end, I also compare myself to another driver and see something new. And even I'm like, oh, okay, I learned something new. So I'm trying to adopt that onto myself. And in the end, I became even faster. Because you always need to have the mentality set that that you can improve on yourself. Because if you think that you're already perfect, then there's no
Yeah,
there's no
that's not
reason for
gonna.
you to keep doing what you have been doing so far, right? Because if
Yeah,
you can always improve on yourself, that means that you will always become a better driver and person than yesterday, for example.
yeah, yeah,
And so this is one of the things. The other thing is if you have the chance or the opportunity to drive against other fast drivers or in the same lobby, use that and take that as an opportunity. Let it be, for example, if some of the other fast drivers are practicing for a race on an open lobby, and if you see some of them joining one of those lobbies too, try to
yeah,
join them, try to drive with them so that you can also save the replay, analyze it. But if they're also like right in front of you, you can also try to observe what they're doing differently compared to you.
yeah,
And with that, you will always have the motivation to keep up with them, even if that won't be the case at the beginning. But that means that you have like a target to set on yourself. And with this way, you can also try to keep improving on yourself with every single second, minute, day, like throughout the session.
yeah, yeah.
Now I'm trying to think about something else.
No, they are very, very, very good answers, to be fair. Because Larson, who's watching in the comments, and said, if your motivation is low, do you have any kind of techniques to try and help you kind of regain that motivation? If you're, because you went through a real kind of rough time in 2019 and 20, it said here, you had a lot of ups and downs. So you would have experienced that. And I suppose, how do you maintain your focus and your desire to kind of keep going and win these races?
So when my motivation was always low, I just stopped playing the game competitively, because I always tell to myself that if I don't have the motivation to do something, then I would just not do it in the end. Because in the end, you would just force yourself to do it, which could lead into having a burnout, for example. Obviously, there are certain things which, unfortunately, you have to go through. For example, when you're studying and you have your examinations coming up, you have to prepare yourself for it, right? Even if you don't have the motivation. But for the game, yeah, like whenever I wasn't having the motivation to compete competitively, or sometimes when I wanted to take a break, I was just playing Gran Turismo just for fun, like just taking a controller, doing some campaign races, or like taking some pictures, because I like taking pictures in real life as well as in the game. So it's always like a nice way to just cool yourself down and also just think about something else. And after some time, obviously, you can also try to recharge yourself a little bit and try to think about, hey, you took a long break. What about trying to continue what you have been doing in the past, right?
Yeah.
Because for me personally, also sometimes when I do a time trial event, at like when we also had to try to qualify ourselves for the Olympic esports series in 2021, officially
Yeah.
my last competition I did in the past. In order to represent your country there, you had to set one of the fastest lap times from like through the time attack mode.
Oh, yep, yep.
Yeah, and obviously on the first day you want to try and learn the car and the track, how everything works. But at some point, you're going to reach a point where you're not able to improve your lap time because you're just so burned out. So
Yeah.
what I do is I like to take a break, sleep for a bit, and then on the next day or maybe on the day after that, I would like to try to come back. And let's say after 15 minutes, even, I can already improve on my lap time because you already have the muscle memory in the end and with
Yeah.
the full energy. Because if you're driving for a long time, even your eyes become a bit sore.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a
Yeah.
bit
That's it.
tired, so I'm sorry for that.
No, no, I know you've been travelling, so we do appreciate you putting your time aside on a very busy day as well, coming to see us and to take
Nah,
time
all
to
good.
talk to us. It's very kind. But no, it's so good to hear all these things because it does the motivation and the manner of how you take on life is so important.
Yeah,
And I think
exactly.
it's a big thing in gaming because I think we have such a wide age range. You know, you
Mm-hmm.
could be playing a game and we're all in our I'm in my late 40s. But you'd be playing against someone who's 12 or 13 or younger on a daily race, isn't it? And they have a very different attitude to how they play and how and maybe how they see the world and how they would like to, when they see these championships and think, I would like to be there one day. There must be millions of kids out there thinking exactly the same thing, wanting to get to the top. And I think it's a hard thing to cope with, to actually say, well, you have a chance to get to the top, but you have to be really, really good. And you have to take a serious attempt at that because otherwise it's like a fairy tale. A lot of people will say to folk, oh yeah, you can achieve anything. But actually, you've got to be you've got to have the skill in the first place, or have a natural ability isn't it, to take that on. What would you say to young budding kind of sim racers out there who are kind of wanting to get to the top? What would you say is an important factor to bear in mind?
One of the important things I would really, really try to take into consideration is to have the ability to learn from your mistakes, or even having the ability to accept losing in the end. Because once you're trying to compete against the other drivers, obviously you always want to win, right? Because in the end you drive against the best, you have the competitive mentality set in the end. And if you're not able to win because, for example, you either did a mistake or the other driver was simply faster than you, then in the end you would just become frustrated about it. But this is also something which I said in the beginning. You should always aspire to become a better driver on the next day. So if you can
Yeah,
accept losing from the very
yeah,
beginning, that means that you're willing to learn from your mistakes to become
mm,
a better to become a better driver as well as a person
yeah,
on the next day, in
yeah,
order to beat against all the other drivers who beat you on the day before.
yeah, yeah.
So obviously in my journey in 2019, where we had lots of World Tour events during that year,
Mm,
um, when we had the very first event at Paris, I believe, I
mm,
was actually about to win this event, which could have been really helpful for my studies because during that year, once you won the Nations Cup from a World Tour event, you were
yeah.
already automatically qualified for the World Finals later on. And this
Oh
could have been
wow.
so beneficial for
Yeah,
myself that I could
yeah,
just focus on my
yeah,
studies.
yeah,
But in the end, I did a crucial mistake while going into the pit entry because the grand final we had on that time was the Red Bull X 2019 at
oh yeah,
Autopolis.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So maybe
It's
you can
really
quite,
tricky.
yeah,
Yeah, that's a horrible pit entry to that, isn't it?
yeah.
There's a big wall. Yeah, easy to hit.
So unfortunately I hit the barrier while going into the pits, and because of
Yeah,
that I lost the lead
yeah,
afterwards. So yeah, for me personally, I was quite devastated because in the end, I was the one sitting behind of the wheel, like driving the car, doing the crucial mistake, and because of that, I didn't win the event. Because for me personally, I'm quite harsh on myself because obviously I try to aspire to be in a perfect state, or like to have everything in a perfect way. Obviously, which is impossible, but you always would like to try to be
You're
as
aiming
close
it
as
as high as you
possible.
can. Yeah.
But in the end, I was like really devastated. Obviously, with your question from before, losing the motivation a bit, so I was stopping playing the game competitively for a bit. Then the second one where I did the crucial mistake was the New York World event. I mean, all the drivers are going to remember this event as the big rivalry between myself and Igor.
Yeah.
But obviously, we were all like full of emotions, or like in my case, especially because all the drivers or like all the people who were watching the race, they like to remember what happened between myself and him at Eau Rouge with the famous brake checking. But once I calm myself down, because this is also really important, if you're able to control your emotions, especially after everything is over, if you can also try to analyze how your race was in the end. And for me personally, I realized that I did few crucial mistakes there, because up to that point, I never really focused on my strategies while preparing myself for an event, because I only practiced or like prepared myself for the qualifying pace so that I could start from the front and from there to see how the race is going to be like.
Yeah.
And secondly, there were also like few things I could have done differently during the race, which could have been a bit more beneficial for myself. So after that, I told to myself that not only I wanted to become faster in the end, but at the same time, really wanted to make sure to work on my strategies so that I could be prepared for every single scenario, so that I could act quickly on that. Because unlike in real life, being a sim racer means that not only you have to be the driver, but also the race engineer on the same time. Because only you are the only one who can make the decisions in the end, except for the Manufacturers Cup, where your teammates can help you. But in the past, with the Nations Cup, which was an individual event, you had to be the driver and also the person making the decision in the end. So, for example, do I come in to change the tires, or am I going to stay one more lap out? How much fuel do I need to refuel, or like stuff like that? And this is why I really wanted to make sure to work on those areas to be even more prepared for the World Finals. And luckily, I managed to achieve my goal there.
Yeah, it paid off. That's what they used to say about Schumacher, wasn't it? That he was so kind of physically fit, but yet that allowed him the mental capacity to think about his strategy and maybe change it during a race. How have you found that? Because do you find that you have to do some form of fitness or kind of exercise to kind of help you keep your focus and help you with your racing as well? Because a lot of the drivers are now getting a bit fitter and taking it quite seriously in that respect.
In 2019, I was also doing that actually, because I not only for the sim racing, but let's say just for myself, I wanted to lose some weight and also become a fitter person in the end.
Yeah.
Which in the end, it actually worked out because I was losing a lot of weight. If I compare myself, both the 2018 and the 2019 World Finals, you can clearly see, let's say, how much fitter I became in 2019. But then unfortunately with COVID happening in 2020, I was gaining some weight again. So I'm trying to become a fitter person again. But
that's the thing when you get Deliveroo and all these kind of things, aren't they? That kind of takes off,
it didn't help because all the fitness studios, they have been shut down. Or
that's it, isn't it? You're stuck.
COVID. And like in my case, because I was studying on the same time, we were having our lectures online. So everything was from home. So it wasn't really able to move out or like just to move a bit and do some exercise for your own body. So that was a bit hard. But
you need a running machine in the living room or something like that, or a cycle machine that you can
or maybe running in a circle.
I know that's kind of the thing, isn't it? But I was going to say, because in terms of your motorsport, you obviously you recited the race between Schumacher and Alesi when you had to kind of battle it. Do you have some big or very fond memories of Formula One drivers or particular Formula One events that you kind of think, oh, that's what inspired me, or that's what gives me my kind of love for motorsport? Is there a particular kind of, do you like Formula One quite a bit? Are there any particular drivers that are your favourite?
Yeah, I like Formula One. It was actually because of Lewis Hamilton why I started liking Formula One while he was still racing for McLaren back in the old days.
Yeah.
Like when he entered the scene as a rookie, but then pretty much shocking everyone. But then obviously, as I'm also part of Team Redline, I also like seeing Verstappen driving on the track. And yeah, he also became one of my favorite drivers, if not my favorite driver to support in the end. Yeah, especially as he also came to the Monaco World Finals in 2019
That's
to
right.
support me. Because this is so cool about Verstappen, in my opinion. Like you would think that some of the Formula One drivers, they have like the how should I say, like as a fan, you already see those kind of persons being unreachable because they're already the Formula One drivers. They have a lot of like a huge fan base. They're already so popular in the end. But with Verstappen, on the other hand, he's still like a normal guy if you want to talk to him, and it's so cool because you can joke around with him, or like you can also talk a few things with him about. I also remember those kind of Formula One weekends where he was actually there attending an event. He was doing the practice session, and just right after the practice session, he came back to our own group chat, and he was asking the other guys from iRacing if they needed a session open, like a lobby, so that he could host one. So he's really, really into the whole sim racing thing, which is really awesome.
I do like him because he's very upfront, and I think he kind of says what he thinks, which is refreshing. He's not kind of politically tied, which I think some of the other drivers have become over the years. So he's refreshing in that way. I just think it would have been nice if the cars had been a wee bit more closer this year, because the last 2 years he's had to run to himself a wee bit. It would have been nice to have seen a bit more competition. I mean, 2021 was an incredible year for the racing. One was literally Lewis would win one race and Verstappen would win the next, and it was an incredible battle. It is quite a thing. But it was when you went back to what you were saying about learning from your mistakes and previous things that didn't go quite to how you would have liked. It reminds me of one of my favourite drivers at the time was Nigel Mansell, because I was kind of in that era of the late 80s when I started watching Formula One. And of course, his tyre blew in 86 and he lost the world title. He was leading the race in Adelaide and it went, and then Prost won. And he had so many near misses where he almost got the title, and he had to wait to 1992 before he finally had a car, the Williams Renault, that was dominant, and he was able to make the most of it to win. And it kind of made me think, he had to learn an awful lot, and he retired, and then Williams decided to say, no, you need to come back and race for us, and then he did all of that, So it was quite a kind of crazy ride of how it all works, but it does show you, isn't it? You have to kind of keep going and then take your chances when you get them. And I also remember an interesting interview with Ayrton Senna, because when he was still in Formula 3, and even then everyone thought this was going to be a very significant driver, because he had all these battles with Martin Brundle where they had crashed how many times in that season, but he was still leading, and in the end he won that series. But he said in the interview, he says, well, I'm hoping to make it to Formula 1, but I will see if I get there. And at the time, he said it in a manner which was really reserved. And I thought, yes, he must have confidence to, he's gotten as far as he's gotten, but he's not big-headed in terms of, what his prospects were when you think 10 years down the line where he would be in Formula One. And I think, do you kind of like a character like that? Do you think that's a more honest and a better approach to motorsport, or being a driver?
I think everyone can be their way how they want to be, towards to the public. But just for me personally, or let's say individually, I think you need to have the confidence to say that you are the best. or let's say
Yeah.
one of the best. Because
Yeah.
in my case, when I attended the World Finals in 2019, obviously I was trying to tell to myself all the time that, hey, you are the best driver, you're going to win it, so that you can also push yourself a little bit even more to have a higher confidence while
Yeah.
entering the live stage, so that you can pretty much use all of your practice sessions or
Yeah.
like experiences in the past on the track, so that you can also win the races in the end. Because I feel like if you're intending a championship without having the intention to win in the end, then why are you even here?
Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, because for me personally, you should only participate in a championship with the intention of winning it. Because
Yeah.
why should I
Yeah.
even participate there unless you just want to enjoy the life, you want to get your salary, your money.
Yeah. Yeah.
But for me personally, I mean, let's say if I start the whole motorsport career from a middle age,
Yeah.
obviously with probably the family and all the surroundings trying to keep telling you, hey, you're going to be in Formula One day,
Yeah.
you're going to
Yeah.
think that, okay, you want to make it to Formula One because you want to become a world champion.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, this is like the fuel running you pretty much, or like the motivation to keep you running to achieve your goal later on. And this is
Yeah.
also another reason why I like Verstappen, because he says something like, where I think he has been asked that question one time before, but I think he answered that he thinks that he's one of the best, because if he's
Yeah.
not, then he could just pack his luggages and go back home. So
Yeah, yeah, no, it's fairly frank. That was it, kind of down to earth. You know,
yeah,
you ask the question, you get a straight answer. Yeah, no,
exactly.
that's it, isn't it? You know, yeah, no, I do like that. I do like that in the way. I always remember there was a great scene in the film Rush, when you know about
Between Nicky Lauda and
Nicky
James Hunt.
Lauda and James Hunt, and on the morning of the big battle that they were going into Japan, where they were going to win the world, one of them would be world champion. Same with Nicky Lauda went into I can't believe James Hunt's room and said, "I'm going to be world champion this morning." And then that was it later today. But I think that was more to rile James Hunt up than anything else, because he lost. And of course, James Hunt won in the end in that kind of spectacular fashion. But yeah, it's those kind of characters you don't really see so much anymore. Yeah. Although I do say it is refreshing having Verstappen there, who doesn't just go along with anything that happens, which is good, I think. And you know, what's quite funny is whenever they're asked about the engines in F1, they always say we don't like the V6 hybrids. You know, it's going to be a V12 or a V10 or a V8 or anything like that, isn't it? They're always quite, you know, they know exactly what they would really like to drive if they could, or how they could send the regulations if possible. But no, that would be the thing. Now, I'm quickly going to read one of the questions here from Larson. He says, "Are you able to describe what it feels like to celebrate in Monaco after becoming world champion? How long did you party for?"
Yeah, that was a great moment. There's also a context I have to share there. Like usually with back then it was called the FIA Grand Prix Championship, but back then we had a format where before heading to the grand final, we were having few semi-final races before. So what I always did was, let's say, obviously you had to do the semi-final race in order to qualify yourself for the grand final, to have the chance of winning the event in the end, or becoming the world champion in the end. And for me personally, I never really celebrated a semi-final win, because some people were saying, hey, he's so emotionless, why is he not grateful for winning this event? I'm like, I am grateful, but the thing is, this is only the first step, and the more important one is to win the grand final, because only after winning the grand final you can say, hey, I won the whole competition in the end. So that's why even after winning the semi-final race, I like to try and calm myself down to still stay focused, because obviously we still have the more important race coming up later on, which is the grand final. And now you can imagine how the World Finals was back in the day, because we had the semi-final race on Friday, I believe it was, because it was like Nations Cup Day 1.
Yeah.
Then we had the Manufacturers Cup Day. and then the Nations Cup final day. And for the Nations Cup final day, we had 4 races, excluding the qualifying session. So yeah, after the first race, I was like, whew, okay,
That's a
let's
lot.
focus on the second
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Then we had the second one. I won the second one. I was like, oh, okay, everything is going according to plan so far, but try to stay calm, stay focused, and don't celebrate it too much. Then I
Yeah.
won the third race, which was okay, like good, because I never expected to win at Le Mans, to be fair, because it's one of my weaker tracks.
Mm.
And then as for the grand final, after crossing the start finish line, I had to release all of my emotions in front
Yeah.
of my body, and this is how.
That's it.
Yeah.
And to
Yeah.
win it in Monaco of all places is
Oh,
brilliant,
yeah.
isn't it? I mean, it's I've been there a few years ago. I went to visit, and it's a fantastic town and city, really, isn't it? It's a kind of small city,
Oh, yeah,
but
it
it's
is.
it's an amazing place. It
Mhm.
does have character and atmosphere. I think any time of year you go there,
Yeah.
it's because either they're building the circuit or they're taking it down, one of the two. So it's kind of, but to do it there is something really special.
Yeah,
But
one of my favorite moments in Monaco was like when we entered Monaco, like the whole city. Like we were
yeah,
driving through a road,
yeah,
and let's say if you're standing here, like, oh, let's say on this point here, on the right-hand side, you had like an Opel dealership, or like in the UK, it's called
yeah,
Vauxhall.
yeah,
And
yeah.
right on the left-hand side, so pretty much on the other side, you had a Ferrari dealership. So pretty much it's like, should I buy a Vauxhall or should I buy a Ferrari? Like with this attitude.
Yeah, exactly. It could be an old Vauxhall Corsa or something,
Yeah.
or a Ferrari 488, and
Yeah,
so
exactly.
something incredible. It's 812 super fast or something
Mhm.
rather nice. That's the thing. And of course, because I know that when Super GT went across a few years, maybe just a couple of years ago, to Monaco for the World
Mhm.
Championships. I mean, they let him drive. I think it was either a Porsche or it was a Dodge Viper or something. It was whoever was sponsoring it at the time.
Mhm.
They gave them the car to drive around in Monaco, and they were allowed to go around and have a little drive. So it's I'm trying to think who sponsored it, but it was a big sports car, and they drove around. Him and Jimmy Broadbent. They went round Monaco. I'm sure it was the two of them, and doing all these things. So did you get a chance to actually drive around Monaco as well, or even get a lift around Monaco and see what it was like?
Yeah, I didn't have the chance to drive around Monaco, unfortunately. But we had the chance to drive around the Formula One circuit, like with what is
Oh
it
yeah,
called? Like with the bus we had, or like with a
yeah,
rented car, like something like
yeah,
that. Because we had
aye,
like a bit of spare time there, and we wanted to explore a bit of Monaco. And
yeah.
obviously, if you like motorsport for the Formula One, obviously you would
Yeah,
like to
you've
try
got to
and
see it.
explore the Formula One
Yeah,
circuit, right?
yeah.
So we did that. I'm
It's an
still
amazing bit,
amazed.
even just going round
Yeah,
it. Uh,
like I'm still amazed how tight the Formula
yeah,
One course in real life is. Because
the hairpins are
yes,
incredible. You
because
know,
I'm like, how are the Formula One cars able to
yeah.
like to turn or like to
You
make
used
the
to see
hairpin
it
there?
on the lowest hairpin. I remember watching that famous Senna lap when he goes hearing
Mhm.
round. He's got one hand half the time changing gear in the old gear stick, and then he comes around the hairpin and he actually has to do extra lock. He can't cross his hands because he's not got enough lock, so he has
Yeah,
to actually kind of pull the car around to get enough lock just to get the car around, and he's doing that for 80 laps during a race, and you just think, my goodness. And I used to complain complain to myself. Nobody was listening because I was playing the F1 game, and I said, surely you come to a hairpin, you'd expect to turn the wheel and the car would go round,
yeah,
and of course it didn't, because it was reflecting the real life that you can't just turn it on full lock because it's too
yeah.
tight. And even did you go through the tunnel? I actually walked through the tunnel when I went there.
Me too, me too.
It's
It
great
was,
fun. And,
yeah, it is.
it's just something else, and I tried to get video camera footage of the road, and because they still have the grids, they have the grid lines
Mhm.
on the road at the start finish straight, which is on the main kind of center road, and it's great fun. So but I know it's quite a thing. Now we have a question from Deadeye Delboy, all the way from Glasgow. It says here, if you could buy any car in the world, which Subaru would you buy and why?
Oof. I mean, I will always answer that question the same all the time. Like when it comes down to my favorite car of all time, it's
Yeah.
always going to be the Mercedes-Benz CLK GTR, like always.
Interesting.
Because like
Yeah.
when I saw this car as a child back then,
Yeah.
like for me personally, I instantly fell in love with the design and with the way how the car looks like. Because for me
Yeah.
personally, this car is the definition of a masterpiece in terms of art.
Yeah.
Just the
Yeah.
shape of it, the way how it looks like, even the cockpit. It's
Yeah.
just too beautiful in my opinion. Like even the sound.
Yeah. The big V8 sound is amazing, isn't it?
Yes,
That an
exactly.
AMG engine is quite a thing. So
Mm-hmm.
it was the CLK AMG.
Yeah.
Now, was that like the one? I'm just trying to remember. Was that the one like the Batmobile a wee bit? Or was it kind of on the
Um,
CLK?
it's
When
like
did it
for
come out?
the road car version of the CLK, there are only two how should I say it? Like two um generations. Like
Yeah.
but the CLK GTR is based on the first generation because
Uh,
there's also a CLK DTM road car, and this is based on the second generation.
all right. Yeah.
Yeah. So with the
I'm looking at
CLK,
one now. I've quickly put it on Google just to give me a picture of what it looks like here.
it's
Oh
like
yeah. So
it's like a Le Mans homologation car, like for the
oh yes, the
FIA.
AMG CLK GTR.
Yes,
Yes, because we've got that in Gran Turismo. I'm sure they had that in some of the.
that's
In,
the LM, the CLK
the
LM we have in the game.
the LM, but this is all right. So this is the GTR. Yeah, that does look like some beast, doesn't it? But it's
Yeah.
certainly got. Yeah. No, it's got real style. Yeah, and it is, as I say, it's that kind of iconic classic car design, and
Yeah.
it's just everything is perfectly balanced, which is what you want. But no, that's the thing. So, have you got any chance of being able to drive one or buy one? That will be the.
I
You'll be,
think if I can see a picture on the internet, it's way more realistic than seeing one in real life.
you need to get to Goodwood. You need to get to Goodwood, the Festival of Speed, and say, "Do you
I
know
need
who I
to.
am? I'm a world champion. You need to give me a drive that up the
Ah,
hill at Goodwood. That'll be. I'm sure they would do something for you there if you turned up. That
I'm not sure. Like this is a way too expensive car, so I feel like the insurance would be a bit critical.
I did once drive up the hill at Goodwood because at one
Oh,
point you were
really?
able to drive up. Yeah, on the Thursday it was the manufacturer's mile thing that they had, and I
Mm-hmm.
drove up in an Infinity
Oh,
QV something. So yeah, it was great fun actually. But they
yeah.
put in some extra hay bales. To
Uh-huh.
stop you from thinking you were a great driver, and so you had to slow down a bit more. But we still tried. The annoying thing was the car that I had, it had this start-stop thing. So when
Mm-hmm.
you came up to the line, and they were kind of telling you when to go, and they had the marshals at the side.
Uh-huh.
And of course, I put my foot down, and it stalled because the start stop
Oh
couldn't cope with it,
no.
and it was wanting to go on like battery power or something. And of
Mhm.
course, it just stalled, and it wouldn't do anything. And so eventually, it started, and off we went in a cloud of diesel smoke. So
Uh,
it wasn't the best, but at least I can say I've been up the hill, and
mhm.
it was good fun. But no, that's the thing. And how do you find so your camaraderie with all of your friends, like Valerio and the others, and that when you do these big events, do you find that it's a kind of nice environment and good friends that you've made in the GT series?
Oh, yes, for sure. For me personally, it always feels like a family meeting, if you can say that. So, for example, you have your own
Yeah,
family here, but then your relatives living in a different country, and at one
yeah,
point, your whole family decides to meet up, like in the future, right? It always
yeah,
feels like that because in those kind of events, you will always see like realistically the same amount of people all the time. So let it be like Valerio Gallo,
yeah,
Coque Lopez, Igor, Fraga, Miyazono, Batiste, like those kind of drivers all the time. And it's always great because normally you don't really have the opportunity or the chance to see them every single day. Obviously, we have like our own other tools where we can chat with each other, for
yeah,
example, WhatsApp or on social media, Discord. But
yeah,
it
yeah,
still feels a bit different than seeing them in real life, right? So it's always
yeah,
great. So that's why I always appreciate when I have the opportunity to attend an event
yeah, yeah,
because like from the 365 days, it's maybe 10 days or 5 days we can see each other.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
we have to make the most out of it in the end.
Yeah, no, which is so nice. It does seem like a lovely group of people taking
Yeah.
part from all over the world in front of a big stage and a big audience. And so it's nice that you're able to get on and enjoy each other's
Mhm.
company in doing so. But it's fantastic. I realise we've been going for nearly an hour, and I think are you about an hour ahead of us? Where you are, or is it's just gone 9 o'clock over here.
Mhm.
But it's I hope you're okay with the timing. But
I'm
we're
okay,
fine.
sir.
Oh, that's good. So now that you've got your engineering degree and potentially, obviously, you've got some other work lined up, but that no doubt we'll hear about eventually in the future.
Mhm.
Are you quite optimistic about your future and where you can go? Are you quite excited as to about new doors opening?
Mm, I mean, obviously I am, because you always need to try and stay positive
Yeah,
whenever facing the future. But on the same time, as I don't really know how the future is looking like, it's going to look like, I would
yeah,
like to try to enhance my knowledge as much as
mm,
possible, so
yeah,
that I will always have like plenty of opportunities to work for in the future. So, for example, if that doesn't work out in the end, then I can always rely on the other options I have.
yeah, yeah,
And yeah, as I said it in the past before, like me being, let's say, religious in the end, I always like to believe
mm,
or like put my faith into God. So and that always
yeah,
helps me to calm myself down as well, and also to be patient, to never lose the faith, because in the
mm,
end, you cannot expect to do something one day to do for a long time in the future, right? Because you need
yeah,
to
yeah,
keep working on it. You have to build on it, and obviously, if you also show your dedication for it, then I'm sure you can also reach, or like almost do anything you want to do in the future.
mm,
So also the thing I mentioned before was like me doing the race engineer thing in the UK.
yeah, mm,
So this is something I also would like to explore potentially in the future, because I think if you're like a fan of
yeah.
motorsports in the end, you will love to work within the motorsport industry,
Oh,
right?
yeah, 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 absolutely.
So yeah, like in my case as an engineer, it would be really cool to maybe work there, um, maybe such as in the data, or like in the performance engineer wise, or that you can also work on the strategies, or like setting up the car, because
Mm,
nowadays it's a bit harder to become a race engineer compared to the past,
yeah,
because let's just let me just take Formula One as an example. So in the
yeah,
past, let's say around the era you started watching Formula One,
yeah,
it was more about a few amount of people running a Formula One team in the end. So
yeah,
because, so for example, you had one person who was really dedicated into doing something. So you had
yeah,
one person being the chief designer, the other person being the specialist in the aerodynamics, or only him being
yeah,
responsible for the aerodynamics in the end. And nowadays you have like a facility in the end. So for
yeah,
example, a
yeah,
bunch
that's
of
it.
people working in that area, then you have another bunch of people working in that area. So if you wanted to become a race engineer in the past, it would have been way easier, because nowadays you have to work in something else. So, for example, you have to start working as a data analyst, or you have to
Yeah,
start working
yeah,
as a high performance engineer, or a normal performance engineer, or you have to start working as a strategy engineer, gain few experiences there, or like few years of working experiences there. Then
yeah,
after that, you can maybe do something else, and then potentially you can become a race engineer, because
yeah,
then you manage to gather all those kind of informations, and you can also try to apply that in the end.
yeah,
And the other interesting thing about the course I took there was they were all of them were telling us that if you want to become a race engineer, well, you want to be more responsible for what you're doing in the end, and
mm,
not being dependent by other people, then
yeah,
try to become a race engineer in the GT class of racing, or in the British touring class of
yeah,
racing.
yeah,
Because nowadays in Formula One, as I said it before, you have like a bunch of people working
yeah,
together, or like having the huge facility. But in those other types of racing, or like the classes such as the British Touring Class Championship or the GT class, like the GT3, like the race engineer is more responsible in what he's doing in the end. And maybe this is something which I could also look out for in the future. But I mean, for now, I'm really happy where I'm right now. I cannot say, or potentially, I cannot really say that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, I'm sure we'll hear in time when you're allowed to do so. We'll look forward to hearing exactly what you'll be doing. But no, I can see it. I mean, it's a great environment to be in. Just from the race events that I've attended when I've been invited to a few things in the last wee while, they are great fun. And it's exciting, and it has there's always a thrill. There's always not just hearing the engines as they race past when you're in a tent somewhere, having your lunch and that, but then also meeting the people, seeing what they're doing, and then all the atmosphere as you walk on the grid. I was fortunate enough to go to the Blancpain Championship when it was at Silverstone a few years ago, and because David Perel was driving, he was in the Ferrari, and I actually won a prize with Renault, just a complete kind of unrelated prize, but they said, "Oh, come to the championships race at Silverstone, and we'll give you a shot in a Renault Megane RS." And you can watch the race from our kind of. They had an area that they had to kind of put out a kind of spectator area. So I got to see all of that, and I was able to go and do the grid walk. And it was great. So I was on the grid, and I got to see all the cars, and I actually saw Tidgney and a few other sim racers that had come along as well to come and see David Perel. But it was so nice. I've got a picture right behind me of in the pit box there. That's them in the green. That was David Perel, because he loves sim racing, with one of the main guys behind the sim grid. So it was great fun seeing all of that, and it is a huge thrill. And I think now sim racing is such a way into motorsport for a lot of people, isn't it? It's the link that allows them to really find out a lot more and get into it. One little quick question. There's one here from Larson as well. He said, "Do you have any particular superstitions? Like some of the racing drivers, it was like they would only put their left glove on first, or turning the wheel left and right before a race. Anything funny like that, or something you feel you have to do?"
Let's say, like it's just for myself that I like to pray before doing a race. This is always like my routine, or like my superstition I do in the end.
Makes a lot of sense.
But other than that, I don't think I have any, because it's just for me personally, like I like to jump onto the simulator, try to do my race, and also try to finish with it as soon as possible, so that I can I can jump on my bed as soon as possible afterwards. Because I also like to say that after winning the 2019 World Finals, because everyone was like, "Yeah, you won the World Championship. Now you're going to party hard, right?" And I was like, "No, I just want to lay on my bed.
You can relax."
Or like just relax,
No, that's it. A very sensible thing to do, isn't it? That because that allows you to think about what you've achieved, and it really actually you enjoy it more. I think when you're in a position that you're sober, aren't you? That you're in a mental state, actually, to really enjoy it and take it in, and to realise just what a day it's been, and what an achievement that is. But no, that's fantastic. Well, look, it's been an absolute pleasure, Mikail, to have you on the show again, and to have such a frank and open conversation about how you've become a great sim racing driver, and what it's been like to go through these championships and these races, and of course the excellent advice you've given our viewers here as to how to get faster and to how to keep going, and especially for, I know Larson was asking those very questions that you answered so well about how to keep your motivation up and things like that. So it's been an absolute pleasure and an honour to have a world champion on our show. And so you were welcome to come back anytime. And something makes me think that we are going to hear an awful lot about you in the future, I'm sure, in motorsport terms and these kind of things. I'm sure that light will not be put out. That will definitely be, and your name will be there, I'm sure. But thank you so much for coming on the show. Stay on the line as we finish the live stream. That would be super. And thanks to everyone who's been watching. I have put the link in the description to Mikail's YouTube channel, so please subscribe if you haven't already to Mikail's channel, because he does great live streams, great races. You wanted to say something, sorry.
Yeah, just for all of the guys who have been, or like who are still watching the stream, if you still have any questions you would like to ask me, then just feel free to message or like leave a message on social media and just tag me so that I can also answer these kind of questions to you. So I wanted to say, and also obviously thank you for having me once again. It was really enjoyable, and thank you for the invitation.
Oh, you're very welcome. Very welcome. It's an absolute pleasure to have you. And as I say, it's not easy to get a world champion on the show, but you were very kind and put your time aside and to come on the show. It's a great honor for us to have you on the show. So and you're welcome anytime at all to come back on. But no, that would be super. But thank you very much for coming. I'll say to everybody on the show, if you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button if you want to see this interview and other. We've got a whole host of interviews over the years that we've done. But thank you very much for watching. And this will go out as a podcast as well, so that'll be out towards the weekend. I'm going to be at the Autosport International Show on Saturday in Birmingham, where I hope to do some sim racing and catch up with some people there. So if you're about, we can meet up. But for everyone who's been watching or listening, you've been watching the Hugh Hatrick Show with the legend and the world champion that is Mikail Hizal. Bye just now.
Bye-bye.
There you are.